Good morning, students. This particular lecture of mine is devoted to the topic paralanguage and difference between verbal and non-verbal communication. Paralanguage, to be specific about that, paralanguage is a kind of a language which is going to deal with your voice quality, your voice tone, and how well are you being able to control with your voice and modulate it. But before that, I would like to give you a distinction between a verbal and non-verbal communication. Like we are following the process of communication and all. So in uh, in the previous lecture of mine, I gave you the concept of body language and how the body language is going to bring an improvisation in your entire character and all. And I have also discussed in the previous few lectures of mine. I've discussed about the non-verbal communication and the verbal communication and the types of it and the way to deal with it. So let us before this paralanguage thing, I would like to give you a difference between verbal and non-verbal communication. So to begin with, verbal communication. Communication is a natural phenomena. It is an act of interacting with people and sharing an information. See, verbal and non-verbal communication. Say, for example, saying hi, hello, thumbs up, and all. These are the verbal communication. Verbal communication and non-verbal communication are both impactful to get you through across the various people. There are two types of communication: verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Verbal communication is a form of communication that deals with the interchange of ideas in terms of your written communication and your oral communication. And non-verbal communication are those communication that you are going to use by the means of, say, you can use your body language, you can use your gestures, you can use your artifacts, you can use your color and all to actually denote the basic distinction of language and the non-verbal cues. So if verbal communication is going to communicate the form of communication in terms of interchange of ideas, in terms of using speech or writing, the non-verbal communication is going to indicate something which cannot be spoken. Like in the previous few lectures of mine, I have told you that there is a concept of body language, there's a concept of facial expression, sign language, and all. So there is a distinction between verbal and non-verbal communication. So to bring out the difference, let us move on to the quick point of next of all, importance and structure. Verbal communication is structured communication as it has grammar rules and it gives clear message. See, verbal communication, whether it is an oral communication or a written communication, it all has a grammar rules, or you can say there is a rule of grammar attached to it, that you have to adopt a series of interaction phenomena to deal with the things and all. But non-verbal communication is not structured. It needs to have. It does not need a specific pattern. It can be interpreted as your own wish. So the thing is that you can interpret things according to your manner. Say, for example, if you see this particular person dancing, so is he actually dancing? No, he is in one position. He is standing erect, thinking about something. Then he is in a reluctant mood. Then he is laughing, and then he is raging with anger. And that too, in the first cartoon of yours, you can see that one person is making someone. You can say that he's making any one of the polyceb or any of the person. So non-verbal communication does not have any kind of a, you can say, a structured pattern, and but a verbal communication has a structured grammatical pattern to it. To go on with it, let us also make another difference: discretion and continuous. Verbal communication starts at a point and stops at a point. Now, verbal communication may it be an oral communication or a written communication. They have a starting point also. That means they have a kind of a, say, you can say that there is something you can a person who actually sends it, and there is a stop point also who actually receives it. But non-verbal communication, at times we communicate with ourselves by using the facial expressions of our own, looking into the mirror and communicating ourselves. So this is, are we actually sending signals to someone else? No, it is we, our own self. So non-verbal communication keeps on going without any interruption, and even when alone during the process of intrapersonal process, you keeps on occurring it keeps on occurring at individual level. So people can stop talking, people can stop writing, but people cannot stop their non-verbal actions, their non-verbal gestures. Chances of miscommunication, see, in verbal communication they have a distinct meaning. Oral communication also, you use words, you use a terminology of using various kinds of words, vowels and all. And in written communication you use a specific grammatical pattern of communicating. But there are 4,000 distinct facial expressions. Can you imagine 4,000? And there are 20 muscles in face alone. In your face itself you have 20 muscles alone that is going to make these type of 4,000 facial expressions. So you can imagine the degree of intensity with which you are going to make a non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication has something to do with your non-verbal cues. You are actually making a gesture not a single time, or not of a single type, but there are 4,000 different types of communication by your face itself. Neuropsychological process. Verbal stimuli are interpreted by left hemisphere of the brain, which helps in analyzing and reasoning. This happen most of the time, but brain does not follow it all the time. Now, as it is said that the left part of your brain is going to analyze, it reasons a lot. The left side of your brain, there is a kind of nerves which are related to your neurotic membranes and all, analyzing process and the process of interpretation, the process of giving a reason to it or attaching any kind of reason. The verbal stimuli is being interpreted by this particular left hemisphere. Non-verbal communication is interpreted by the right hemisphere of the brain. These are interpretation that involves spatial, pictorial, and gesturial activities of the brain that creates illicit responses. Now, these are something which are hypothetical. You can say these are in the right side of your brain. You actually record the image constraint. Say, for example, the moment you look at this particular slide. Now, the left side of your brain is going to actually recall the content which is written on this particular slide, but the right side of the brain is going to actually look towards the picture, that what is the picture all about, and try to reconnect with this, and then both the things are going to merge together. So there's a neuropsychology that the verbal stimuli is going to be enacted by your by your left side of your brain, which involves reasoning and analysis and all, and your non-verbal communication is being interpreted by your right hand side, which is being totally going to involve the spatial process of pictorial representation and all. Time consumption. Verbal communication is fast and efficient. Verbal communication, yeah, and like I've told you that verbal communication you can have your instant feedback, but non-verbal communication is more of time consuming than verbal communication. For example, sign language news is more of time consuming than the presented verbally. Say, for example, any kind of information which I am delivering you by using my verbal tone, by using my verbal language and all. And the moment I stop my talking and then I start beginning using my sign language and all, if I just stop talking and I use sign language, so you won't be able to actually relate with it, and it will be time consuming process. So verbal communication is a fast process and is going to give you the instant feedback, but your non-verbal communication can never give you an instant feedback, and at times it can give you a negative feedback also. Miscommunication according to the places and situations. Verbal communication has an immediate feedback, whereas your non-verbal communication do not have a immediate feedback, and there's a kind of a misconception towards uh, verbal communication that happens in non-verbal communication. For example, in Russia, a smile is considered to be impolite, whereas in most part of the world, it is a positive gesture. So like I've told you only in my previous lecture of body language, that there is a kind of body language expression that is smile. So in Russia, if you just smile at someone or smile at anyone, it is considered to be very impolite gesture. Either you must know that particular person, and if you don't know that person, then why are you smiling at him? So if, at him or her, whatever the case may be. So it is a very impolite gesture in your Russia. But in most part of the world, you smile and you get a smile in return. So at times, misconception or misconceivance of the thought comes into the play. But does it means that non-verbal is misinterpreted in all situation? It is better communicating than feelings of emotion and all. For example, a sarcastic sentence can be complimented, seems same verbally, but the intention can be interpreted non-verbal cues. I am saying, say for example, I say, Henry, you are wearing a very nice shirt, and the dots on your shirt are actually making you resemble like you are a flower. So, am I really meaning that am I really do I really mean that he is looking like a flower and all? No, I'm making a jovial of it. I'm making a jest of him. But by my non-verbal gesture, by saying that you are wearing a very nice and very cool shirt, this is going to create a kind of feeling that yes, might be this particular person is liking this thing. So misconception of the thought is always there in non-verbal gesture. You can deceive it, it can be deceived, but verbal communication and your oral communication, your oral communication and your written communication and verbal communication itself cannot be deceived because it is all in black and white. Presence and distance. Verbal communication can be used as a means to like letter chat and all. Distance does not matter in verbal communication, but people have to be face to face in contact to understand the non-verbal communication. Now, I am teaching you by using my video lecture methodology. To can this be possible that many of you won't understand? Yes, it is possible that many of you won't understand that what I am actually trying to convey to you all. So basically, it's all about that how well and in what scenario or in what way the things are going on. So the presence of distance or the presence of thing is of utmost importance in both the verbal and non-verbal communication. In nonverbal communication, distance or the presence matters a lot, but in your verbal communication, the distance and your presence do not matter a lot. Documentary evidences. Verbal communication are loud and people witness it, so there can be a documentary evidence of the other people can might heard. It can be an evidence and can be at times produced for the future evidences and all. But a non-verbal gesture cannot be produced as a future reference and all. You need to just have a contextual. Say for example, you cannot say that at 200 hours that particular person smiled at me. So it means that he is having a very positive notion towards me. No, you cannot make it for the future references. But for your verbal communication, you can make it as a documentary evidences. So that's all about the difference between the verbal and the non-verbal communication. That means that we have covered a lot in your verbal communication and non-verbal communication. We discussed about your importance. We discussed about the discretion and being in continuous nature and all. We discussed about the chances of misconception and miscommunication, the neuropsychology of the processing. We also discussed about time consumption and misconception of according to the places and situation and in the sequential manner. We discussed about the presence and the distance, then and documentary evidences being the difference of your verbal and a non-verbal communication. Now, let us come to a very, very interesting aspect of paralanguage. Now, what is this paralanguage? Now, the moment I say the word paralanguage, it means the way your linguistics, your vocalics are actually behaving. Linguistic scholars in the last half century have concluded that communication goes far beyond words. We speak into the realm of inferred messages of vocal qualifiers. Say, for example, you can relate a paralanguage to a very good example of your politics only. Have you ever seen your politician talking? Politician of your particular country itself. There are different kind of people talking in a different linguistic pattern. Say for example, our honorable prime minister take a pause, take a halt, and take a long instance, giving a long speech and a long instance of pauses. Honorable Prime Minister, late Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, take a long pause, then think over it and then speak. Barack Obama, he makes this factor and then speak. Your Donald Trump, he speaks and speaks and speaks, going on and on and on. So, without actually relating to the rate, the pitch, the volume, the vocal filters, and the quality, which are part and parcel of your paralanguage. Paralanguage are also known as vocalics. It is a component of meta communication that modify the meaning of nuanced meaning or convey emotion by using the technique of prosody, pitch, volume, and intonation. So basically, how you used your pitch, your volume, your vocal filters, your quality are all being imbibed in your paralanguage factor. So, what is a paralanguage? Paralanguage is a way by which you are actually going to use your vocal cords to modulate the words in such a manner that could be easily understood by the receiver. The study of paralanguage is known as paralinguistics and was invented by George L. Trager. So, George L. Trager in the year 1950, while he was working at Foreign Service Institute of Department of State, his colleague at the time included Henry Lee, Charles F. Fockett, working with him using a descriptive linguistic model of paralanguage. Edward T. Hall developed the proxemics and Ray Birchall developed kinesis. Trager published his conclusion in the year 1958, 1960, and 1961. So, all of these people have actually contributed a lot towards the field of business communication. But your George L. Trager and his colleagues, these were his colleagues who actually contributed to the world of paralanguage and how the pitch modulation or the words modulation could be done. It is they have contributed to this particular thing. Paralanguage information because paralinguistic information because it is a phenomenon belongs to an external speech signal verdant de soir parole but not to the arbitrary conventional code of language. In the words of Ferrand de Sauer Perel, he gave the concept that it is not a conventional way of delivering a particular thought. It is basically something which belongs to an external speech signal aspect. It is an arbitrary thing that is going to happen automatically. Say for example, like I am talking to you all now. While using my vocalics, I am making my pitch a bit loud also. I'm making my pitch very soft also. I'm going to modulate. Say for example, if the lectures are 45 hours or 48 hours and all, so I'm going to just modulate my pitch according to the voice pattern and the quality pattern of the particular thing. Paralinguistic property of a speech play an important role in human communication. There is no utterances of a speech signals that lack paralinguistic properties, since a speech requires the presence of voice that can be modulated. Now, always remember, students, that the speech needs to be modulated. Now, when you all say for example, you have heard Dr. Bindra. Dr. Bindra always go at large when he speaks. He just go at large to the people, and he always communicate at all by using all his gestures and by or using all his voice vocality and all, because he is communicating to a large number of audience. That doesn't mean that when you're communicating to a large number of audience you need to shout. No, you actually need to understand that at what pitch thousand number of people or 10,000 number of people or 100 people or 50 people are going to listen to you. Say for example, if when I'm going to communicate to you in a class of 180 or in a class of 90 and all, and using a particular method, it is my general way that I used to modulate my voice. I start at a very low pitch. Always remember, students, start with a very low pitch and then gradually increase your volume. Gradually increase your pitch. By this, you will be able to actually get a hold towards what you want to say and how you want to say. The voice must have some properties, and all the properties of the voice, such as your are paralinguistics, such as your linguistic patterns, such as your vocal quality, such as your rate of speech and all, delivering pattern, are all being understood in paralanguage itself. However, the distinction linguistic versus paralinguistic applies not only to the speech but also to writing and sign language also. Even vocal language has some paralinguistic feature as well as linguistic properties, that is also known as lip reading. Now, most of us, or to say that most of us are in a habit of reading the lips. You read the lips, but that how say for say at times what happens that you are not actually listening to what the particular person is saying. You're actually reading the lip momentum and how and what words are coming out of the mouth, and your brain is interpreting that those words in a logical sequence. So this is also phenomena of paralanguage itself. You are actually interpreting, and this is a part. This is not a paralanguage, this is a part of it. You can say that it is a part of power, it is a component of it. Importance of paralanguage. Yes, paralanguage do have a very great importance. Now, what exactly is an importance of your paralanguage? Growing in a society, we informally learn how to use the gestures, glances, slight chances of tone voices, and other auxiliary communications devices to alter and emphasize what we have to say and how we have to say. We learn these highly cultured body techniques over the year largely by observing others and imitating them. Now, what is happening? When you are at your childhood age, you tend to shout a lot. You need to yell. You are in a habit of yelling a lot. And gradually, when you grow up, you become poised, you become composed, you become far more active, and your brain start thinking towards the things. So, in reality, what is happening that you are learning the language. It is a part of the redundancy in communication that helps prevent the ineffective communication. Now, see what is happening. Uh, Paralanguage is actually going to tell you that when to raise your voice and when to modulate it. Because at times it happens that we are in a habit of say we are in a habit that okay, whatever I am saying or at whatever pitch I am saying, people will have to accept. No, it's not that. People are accepting, or people are actually accepting those things which are of utmost importance, and they are going to accept only those things which they can actually hear. Now, if you are going to raise your voice a lot, your vocal cords can get damaged, and it it is always a seen factor or a pre-noted factor that most of the time the teachers or the orators or the politicians have a sore throat just because of the reason that they continuously have to raise their pitch and speak to the people. It is a part and parcel of it. So the next importance is that it helps to prevent the ineffective communication. Now ineffective communication means that any kind of communication which is happening due to the inefficiency of the orator or inefficiency of a listener. In both the ways the inefficiency can be tabulated or can be tapped by paralanguage itself. It can prevent the wrong message from inadvertently being passed on, as the often in case of telephone call, and more so in the latter one. So what has happening in actual sense, your particular message can be transferred or it can be communicated by your paralanguage. May it be a letter, may it be a telephone call. You can actually communicate it by using a modulation in your language, because the thing is that any kind of wrong message, say for example I am talking a lot, and during this particular talk or during this particular thing, my vocal cord gets disturbed. Now at times what happen, my voice will break and it will sound very husky or at very large. So most of the people will not be able to relate it, and I myself will not be able to speak. So for that I need to continuously modulate, raise, and make it effective, so that it the message can be communicated to the final audience, that is you people, in a accurate and a sophisticated manner. Paralanguage message can be observed through faces to face contacts, also make it more difficult to lie and hide emotions. See, when you are communicating by face to face contact, you need to understand one basic thing, that you cannot lie to anyone. You cannot actually hide your emotions, because the moment you start speaking, the moment you start telling a lie, your voice automatically break. And you pumble a lot. So this particular thing can happen with your paralanguage only, and can be easily understood by the other person. So paralanguage is very helpful in understanding whether other person is telling a lie or not. Paralanguage is more often important in communication than being actually being said orally. Now, it is of utmost importance. Say, like I am telling you the thing that paralanguage is of important, but when you actually apply this thing, take for example that you are attending a meeting or you are giving a presentation, and the presentation is of 10 minutes, and during this particular 10 minutes you have to continuously speak and make your listeners and make your audience engrossed towards your listening. So either you, and if by chance if you start with a very high voice just by exclaiming aloud, then you won't be able to continue with the same pitch or with the same manner or in the same way for a longer period of time, and the chance will be that the voice can break. So it is going to be of much more practical and used rather than actually saying it. The most obvious form of paralanguage is body language or kinesis. This language is a gesture expression and posture. In North America, for instance, we commonly use our arms and hands to say goodbye. So in North America, point, count, express, beckoning, warn, threatening, insult. We are using our arms. We are using our arms. We are using our hands to say the goodbye and all. So this is a kind of a behavioral thing. Paralanguage is basically a behavioral thing that can be applied in our day-to-day activities. Paralanguage is all a non-verbal stuff that happens when you speak. The thing is conversation, and lot meaning is conveyed through the tone and inflection. Some more meaning comes from the facial expression, eye movement, and a bit from your body language. A lot of time people use words like whine, groan, squeal, hunt, and make such noise and all. So, during the process of paralanguage, those humming sounds, the sound of your gong, the sound of your squeal, oh, I these are the paralanguage or all. So you are actually making your sound, you are making a sound, and these vocalic things are actually, say for example, this is also a paralanguage. So paralanguage is actually not a part and parcel of your communication, but it is an interior thing which you are going to, which you are bound to do it, and you will do it. And it is of utmost importance, because if you are not going to do it, you cannot continue for a very long period of time. Advantages. Now, just like there are some various advantages of your paralanguage communication, no oral communication is complete without paralanguage. Yes, without paralanguage, your oral communication is not at all complete. A speaker, education, and background can be judged by the way he is speaking. Say, for example, you say that this particular person is, I think that he's not belong to a particular good society, or he's not from a very good local society and all, because he is shouting, or any kind of behavior during the paralanguage, say making your voice unclear, or you're making your voice not up to the mark, or the voice is getting cracked and all. So this is going to show that what kind of background or from what kind of educational quality you have. Most of the time it is said that those who have a very high pitch, or those who shout a lot, uh, I'm really sorry if you are having this thing, but they say that they do not have a very good background. Paralanguage is of person indicates his place in hierarchical structure and organization. Now you must be seeing that those who are at a very top management post, they tend to speak in a in a very subtle manner, or they use the very humble gesture, and they use to communicate the things in a very sophisticated and low tone. Now this is going to indicate the kind of a position which they have. Paralanguage, knowledge of persons, paralanguage is helpful in dealing with them. Now, if you say the knowledge of a person of a paralanguage is very much helpful, yes, it is of utmost importance to the person who is actually dealing with the paralanguage. Paralanguage is very much close to aligned to the language. Indicators of the speakers. Indicators, say for example, the designation, educational backgrounds, nationality, mental state, are all being denoted by your paralanguage, and paralanguage denoted it in a very comfortable manner. Because, say for example, educational background, like I've told you that those people who shout a lot, who scream a lot, and at the top of the voice they are going on and on, they're jabbering a lot. So this shows that they belong to a very low kind of educational background. Nationality, religion, and all. Let's not go into the detail of it, but it is generally being said that in few of the religion, or in few of the nationality, they are in a habit of using some kind of a vocalic tone, a vocalic hymn, which can be of not of a very good quality, and it is always being condemned by the people. Paralanguage is of important for educational value. It gives you, it shows that what kind of educational status, or what kind of behavior tone you have. Now, this is all about the disadvantages. Like you say that to every side of coin there's another thing to it. So yes, there is another aspect also. There is an aspect of your paralanguage disadvantage. Paralanguage is like a language, not a language we can rely on it. So it is basically a nut language. It is a kind of a language that cannot be easily broken. So it is a kind of a language that we cannot actually rely upon. See, saying that a person do not belong to a particular good educational quality, like I have told you in the previous slide of mine, that if you are raising your voice, or if you are having a very high pitch, that means that you are having a very low educational background at times happens. So this is not this is the biggest disadvantage of a paralanguage, that you cannot actually rely upon it. You cannot judge a person by actually saying it. Unless the listener is of open mind, voice quality, speaking speed, pitch, etc., may be a prejudice for him, causing poor listening. Now, if a listener is of closed mind, if he is not ready to listen, because at times it happens with you all students also, that after having lots and lots of lecture, when your mind gets bogged off, and the moment the teacher comes up, your mind gets closed and you are not in a position to listen. At that particular time, even though the voice quality of a teacher, the modulation of the teacher is of utmost importance, but your mind, since it is closed, you will not be able to listen. You won't be listening to him. You are actually becoming a closed-minded person. uh, the speaker belongs to different speech communities, due to which it's difficult to maintain the uniformity in paralanguage. Now, there are talking about India only. India is having multiple of languages, multiple of type of people, and multiple religion also. So the kind of paralanguage or uniformity between the paralanguage, or say, like I've told you, that in some culture and in some nationalities, that you have a particular type of hymn, a particular type of thing which you are not actually do not want to open up in front of everyone. Say, for example, at times it is said that many of us belong to a particular culture wherein you are not allowed to actually speak. Say, for example, the women are not allowed to speak. So, when a woman starts speaking, the voice quality of that particular person who hasn't who hasn't spoken for a very long period of time in front of anyone, it will automatically get disturbed. So telling that there is a common parallels to it, no, it's not practically possible. It is difficult to blend what is said and how it is said. See, I said you look beautiful. No, I am saying it, do it actually mean that you are beautiful? No. Or does it actually I am trying to, or does it mean that I'm trying to criticize you, or it means something else? The way I have said, you have done a beautiful work, or your dress is very pretty, or you're looking marvelous. Uh, this is the kind of gesture, or the kind of methodology which I have adopted to say these things. There's a distinction between the two. You can make clear distinction between the two kinds of paralanguage. Now there are various kinds of paralanguage, and let's get a particular let's get a quick recap, a quick look into the that what are the various kinds of paralanguage: pitch, volume, tone, articulations, stress pattern, vocal quality, rhythm, roadblocks, pauses, body language, and facial expressions. These are the various kinds of paralanguage, and now let us discuss them. Pitch. Pitch or pitch contour, in which the syllable is pronounced as, is like raising emotion, which means the pitch of the voice raises over time. See, when you are a child like him, and as shown in the picture, the pitch of your volume is very high and gradually it becomes composed. Falling in ocean means that pitch falls with time. Like you grow older, the volume of pitch automatically get dipped. Dipping in ocean falls and then rise. See, at the beginning of the lecture, when it's morning time, and you can say, or you when it is a morning time, and when the teacher comes to the class, your morale and the teacher morale and the energy content is too high. But gradually, as the lecture goes and as the 45 minutes crosses, during the 1 hour presentation, it start dipping down, down, and down, peaking in ocean, rise and fall. Now there are peaks also, and there are downfalls also in your language, and this is what is the pitch all about. Next is your pitch volumes, and let us also consider the volume aspects. The next is the first was your pitch, next is your volume. In acoustics, loudness is subjective perception that sound pressure more formally is defined as that are attribute to the auditory sensation in terms of which the sounds can be ordered on scale extending to quite as loud. See, basically, uh, the volume of paralanguage or your volume during the process of making a thing should be in accordance to situation. Say, for example, when you are surprised, you say, "Oh, this is the kind of thing which I am surprised at." No, so you are actually making this "ha" and all. You are making a feeling. You are making your volume, and your volume can be "ha" a loud or a particular shock. What? This is a shock. This is a shock. This is actually surprising you. And when you are embarrassed, oh, I'm really, really embarrassed about it. Then when you're embarrassed, your voice is actually going to be very, very softened and all. Confused. Oh shit, I'm confused, man. And your voice and your way you deal with it, the confusion is there. The outrage, when you are outrageous, when you are spoken, you actually raise your voice, you raise your volume, and you raise your pitch and also tone. For example, the tone could imply praise, disapproval, behavior without explicit instruction. The teacher tone can indicate the emotion of the teacher. See, now at times what happens that tone of the teacher or tone is going to demand. Tone is going to show that what kind of mental ability or with what composed feature the particular thing is going at. Tone can be said as the way it refers to the non-verbal cues by which you are going to communicate the gestures, the postures, the facial expression, the boredom, and all. So basically, what is happening that say for example, you are sad. Your tone will not be actually depicting a very positive, in a very, 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 very positive tone. If you are happy, if you're excited about something, you actually want to communicate everything. The tone will be of a very positive tone or a very positive side, and the kind of language or the kind of tonal quality, remember students, your tonal quality have to be of such a kind that you need to actually create an impactful gesture into the mind of the persons. Articulation. Articulation is important to be able to produce sounds, words, sentences which are clear, can be easily understood and interpreted by the others. Now, the thing is that there are certain things that can be easily understood by others, and there are certain things that cannot be easily understood by others. So, difficulty when your words, when your sentences are so complex enough. Say, I say that. The dress of particular, say I call name Samantha, your dress is supercalifragilistic and you are looking magnanimous. So to Samantha is in a position to understand my words. So actually your sound and your words and your sentences should be such that it should not create a kind of an impact what you said. Say for example in this cartoon itself, society for asking stupid questions. See, now this is a kind of you can say a joke on society, that you have created a society to ask stupid questions, because generally it is said that people ask stupid questions. So you need to actually articulate your language. Speed. Remember that your speed of your language should be very, very smooth, very, very logical. Stress. Now, if you are making a particular language and if you are communicating, the stress shouldn't be there. Vocal quality, I have already explained the vocal quality and all. Rhythm. There should be a rhythm, there should be a continuous tantrum in your particular language, and it should go on and on and on with a equal tempo, and though it is not practically possible, but you can maintain it with your choices and all. Roadblocks, emotional barriers, cultural barriers, language barriers, gender barriers are all that are going to create a kind of a block. But this blockage is actually going to create an impactful reason onto yours. Pauses. Now, you need not to take a very long pause during the process of communication. Remember that these type of emotions can be a pause goal that can be evaded at certain times. Body language has already been explained to you as a kind of paralanguage itself. Facial expressions, these kind of things are being used in your paralanguage sense too much. Now let's take a quick recap. Now, when you are taking we have discussed about I have given you the concept of verbal and non-verbal differentiation. What is paralanguage? Difference between paralanguage, advantages, kinds and detail. So that was all about my presentation on paralanguage and difference between your verbal and non-verbal communication. In the next few slides of mine, or in the next lecture of mine, we will be covering on the aspect of written communication and how written communication is going to help in you. So over here, if any kind of doubt or any kind of question arise in your mind, so please come to me and ask me and clear your doubts, so that the doubts do not linger on, and do not communicate or do not use a kind of paralanguage which is not too much friendly. So with this particular thought, I end my presentation. Thank you.